Welcome to Lionfist. Lionfist? Lionfist. Lionfist Live. It's like a lion roars. Duh.
I don't get it.
Bringing you a bunch of random stuff today.
I really don't care. No, really. I don't care.
Keeping things relevant every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time here on Lionfist Live. This is Lionfist, only on iFluxy.
Seriously?
Hey, boys and girls. Welcome to Lionfist Live on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. It's 2 p.m. Pacific time. It's going to be 4 p.m. for a lot of you that are watching right now, I can see. But I am here coming to you live from the iFluxy studios. I'm going to be checking out my phone. I want to be able to interact with you guys a little bit today, so I'll be watching for your comments. Normally I have this set up on my screen here, but I'm going to keep things optimized. For those of you who don't know how things operate here in studio, I've got to run multiple things on my computer, so it's just a lot going on. Now today I'm just really going to be running into a couple different topics, mostly founders depression, something that I've dealt with over the years quite a bit. It really is something that is a taboo subject amongst the founders out there, CEOs, primarily COOs. It's a big one as well, and then a lot of our chief revenue officers or chief investment officers are people that are running into this quite a bit, and I just figured it would be quite the subject to touch base on. I've been dealing with founders depression myself quite a bit, and it kind of hit me hard recently. Something else triggered it outside of the founders realm, but it really just hit me hard, and it's something that I've dealt with over the years quite a bit, and I figured it would be appropriate to kind of touch base on it, and if anybody out there is listening and has some of their own side to bring to the table, I'm going to go ahead and allow a call-in or two from anybody that's listening. If there is no call that happens, that's okay. I will just go ahead and let you know I am going to make this happen in about 20 minutes, a half hour. If you want to call in, have ready, go ahead and grab that pen and paper. The phone number to call me at is going to be an 800 number. I'll go ahead and switch over here. I got to pull out my phone. Like I said, I am looking at my phone here. Phone number is 1-800-851-2186. Call that phone number in about 20 minutes, so about 20 after the hour. And actually, let's go ahead and make it at 2:25 Pacific time. If you want to call in, you can call in, give us some insight of your own. If it's some of your own experience or experience of somebody that you've known, or if you want to remain anonymous and tell your own story all out, that's perfectly fine. Today, while I'm not in the slump, I'm actually finding a little bit of nervousness coming on and talking about this. But I figure it's really important. It is a taboo subject for the most part because us CEOs and founders of companies are expected to have that hardcore stone face, that poker face, that game face all the time. And it's really difficult because we're always on the go. We're always working hard. We're always having to lead the way, not just through our words, but through our actions. And part of that is being able to maintain a game face at all points in time. And it's a lot easier said than done. When you have to go, it really drags you down because you're beating your body up. You're not getting enough sleep. You're not eating enough. You're staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning working when everybody else is sleeping. It's not easy. It really takes a toll on you physically first. Usually, this is the way it goes. Usually, it's a physical thing where your body just starts telling your brain to kind of chill out. But we can't listen. We have so many things that we have to get done. When we're a founder, we have to go, and it feels like you never have a stop to get. It's like getting on a train or a bus, and you get on, but there's no destination in sight. You may have a goal in sight. You may have a vision, a milestone that you're shooting for that you want to make sure that you're hitting, but you're not willing to stop until then. And that's the right way to do it. But the wrong way to do things is to beat your body up in the process, to not have the balance, that spiritual and intellectual balance and that physical balance, to not have it figured out. And that's so many people out there that are going ahead and just going, and you get caught up in this founder's depression. And the reality of it is, with myself, I've wound up depressed months on end. I've wound up... Listen, I've been homeless before, and a lot of it was because of the depression, because I refused to acknowledge the situation that was going on. And it's not that I wasn't pushing forward. I made sacrifices, and they all paid out, and you can kind of tell. But I'm sitting here dealing with success right now, and it doesn't even feel like success sometimes, because I still have to keep going, and I have to keep on my game face, and I just always have to swing. I'm always having to step up to the plate and swing. I don't get a break like somebody who works a regular 9-to-5 job. You get to go home and you get to lay down and go to sleep. I have to force myself to lay down and sleep because I have people that are watching that are expecting me to do things, and I'm leading the way, and I have to help people pay their bills, and I have to pay my own bills, and I have to be able to create a vision for people that they feel strong enough to stand behind. Now, that's something that I'm doing regularly myself, for myself. Now, I sit down, and I've always told people, it's important to sit down and write your vision statement down. It's important to sit down and understand your most amazing future. And, this is one of the things that always pulls me out. But what about that burnout period when you're just going? And it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. That happens a lot to us founders and CEOs and CEOs, other executives that started up a company. We're all sitting here dealing with it's the weirdest depression, because it's not just about taking care of a family. It's about taking care of a business. It's about taking care of friends. It's about taking care of projects. It's about taking care of everything around you. And sometimes I wish it were more closely related to a family situation. And I don't mean to minimize anybody's issues out there. If you're dealing with depression ever at any point in time, with all the hard work and effort that you put in with family or your 9-to-5 job, no offense meant. It's just something that tends to be unique in the sense that it's more taboo, less talked about in the founder's world. And I figure it would just be an amazing thing for other people to come on board with me. Maybe not live, but if any of you can provide some insight with some knowledge in the comments. I would love to hear from you a little bit, and I'm sure everybody else out there would love to hear a little bit, because this is a very dangerous thing. In Silicon Valley, it's starting to be brought to everybody's attention a little bit, because there's a lot of suicide that's going on. There's a lot of mental health issues. There are a lot of mental health issues in Silicon Valley right now, stemming from the fact that nobody's feeding their bodies, their spirits, their minds in the ways they should be, because they're absolutely brilliant dealing with these different creative endeavors and new ventures, and a lot of the time you're going to be dealing with people who are sitting there at a computer programming and coding all day, and I know what this is like. I've been working on an app now for about 6 months. It's something that I know is disruptive. It's going to be disruptive. It's going to change the face of a few things in entertainment and new media. I don't expect it to be the game changer that changes everybody's world and how they operate day in and day out. Could it be that way? Yeah. But I've learned to kind of step back and not put that kind of pressure on my back, so as to avoid this founder's depression that we're talking about. I've been saying it, build one panel at a time. That's exactly what I focus on, is building one panel at a time, knowing that I'm going to make mistakes along the way. And it hurts as a founder to think that I could be a failure at some point. But if I sit here and I look back on my experiences, 98% of my failures have resulted in success. And I know that sounds funny, but that's one thing you should remember when you're dealing with this depression and this fear and anxiety that you're always dealing with, that has to do with founding a company. So many of us are afraid of failure. And while it's great motivation, it can really eat you up on the inside, because you have people sitting here telling you that what you're doing is not right. It's not the right way. You could be listening to mentors, and this is a prime example of something that's rather personal to me, because I have had to deal with many people coming out and saying, "Listen, you're not doing it the right way. You're a failed producer. You're a failed startup person. You're a failed this and that." And I've literally been called a failed many different things, and it hurts. It hurts to hear that, and it really drags you down, because failure is the last thing that you want to be. But also remember, if you're sitting here in the shoes of Thomas Edison, how many failures did he have? He sat there and claimed to have failed at least 1,000 times to come up with one light bulb. It worked out for him in the end, and he found that success. And that's something you've got to remember. You've got to pound that pavement. You've got to hit it hard, and you've got to remember that every failure is actually a success if you allow it to be, and if you learn from it. So that is the number one thing you have to figure out and push out of the way. But then you still have the issues of everybody having this idea in their head of what the right way is and what the appropriate manner and approach is going to be. Well, I can tell you this. I have sat here and witnessed so many startups look like they were doing everything right according to the rules, with major parentheses around the rules. Everybody who's sitting here playing by the rules and doing everything the way it's supposed to be done, working at 9-to-5 job and then going home and working a couple hours every night and then hanging out with the family and friends and not talking about business. These are the rules that I hear about all the time. You're not supposed to ever make that sacrifice and jump off the cliff and hope that parachute opens up. You're supposed to always play it safe. That's one of the big rules. Well, a little wake-up call for those of you who are not entrepreneurs. It doesn't happen like that. If you want to start up a successful business, if you want to be truly successful in your life in general, you're going to have to make sacrifices, and it hurts. And you don't need to be telling people that are these game-faced entrepreneurs that they are having to play by a certain set of rules. Of course, we need to be ethical and moral and not hurt people, or hurt as few people along the way as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be possible to not hurt anybody at all in general in life, but don't tell an entrepreneur this is the way you have to do things, because there is no right way. And if you really want to look at things and you want to look at how majority of companies have been founded that have found major success, a majority of them have started out in somebody else's garage, not even their own. It was one of their friends' garages. It was one of their family members' garages. It was somebody that was supportive and stood behind their vision and their idea and their concept. There's no point in beating up somebody, and you may not realize that you're beating up somebody. And this is very important, just coming from my own side and my own aspect, is that we really need your support in a different way than what you probably know. We're working our tails off towards a vision and towards a goal, and you may not grasp onto it right now, but eventually you will. And if you stand behind us, we will have your backs, because not enough people do stand behind us. It's not easy for us to forget who was there holding our hands, who was there to be a shoulder to cry on. And just because we have that stone face doesn't mean that we're not hurting. There's many times that we're sitting there crying inside, and if we don't have a source to go vent to, and we don't have somebody to just give us a hug every now and then, we turn around and we end up being these assholes. Excuse my language, but that's reality. We end up being these assholes that you hear about with these CEOs all the time. Prime example of one of the most revered CEOs and founders of any technology or of any company. Arguably one of the most influential companies and people of all time, Steve Jobs, was notorious for having his breaking points. The reason he was having his breaking points, I'm convinced, is because people would not stop and consider him, because he was going and pushing towards this vision that he had, and brilliant it was, but he had an issue inside that wasn't necessarily here or whatever. It wasn't an issue because society created it. It wasn't an issue because he created this issue. It was an issue because he had something that had to be done. He had a vision that he was pushing towards, and a lot of people wouldn't grasp onto it and some of the responsibility was on him. Some of the onus was on him to go ahead and find out why that was and keep his game face on, and he worked hard. Now, here's another point. Speaking on that, all you entrepreneurs out there, when you look at your people like Steve Jobs, you look at your people like Bill Gates, you look at all of these successful entrepreneurs, you don't have to be exactly like them. Remember that. One of the most important things I think for all of us entrepreneurs to realize is that we need to speak up. We need to let people know when we're hurting. And I learned this recently. I did deal with some depression recently, and I was really trying so hard to keep on this game face that eventually I kind of just snapped. And all the people around me were telling me that I was just being too brash. And that was so hard for me to stomach. I was just being way too brash. And the reason I was being brash was because I had to be this stone-faced person with a vision that no matter what, I was going to get it done. And the truth is, I am that way. At my innermost core, I am that person who's going to get it done at all costs. But I don't want to hurt anybody along the way. So I think it's important that you take the time and explain to people the emotions that you're going through and the hurt and the idea that it feels like you're the only one working so hard. You're going to get that. That is part of being a leader, an entrepreneur. You have to lead by example. You have to be doing the most work, especially when you start up. Especially when you're the one with the vision, then you're the one that's trying to convey it to everybody else. It's extremely important. Now, to get on a personal side, I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there right now. Probably about once every 6 months, maybe a little less often than that. I personally get to a point where I just feel this anxiety, this depression, and really all of this stuff that I've been talking about just kind of comes together and really makes me feel overwhelmed. And it's not a burnout from my work. I could work on the things that I do, doing it this way, because that's not the right way. I know so-and-so did it this way. What I burn out on is my own anxieties that I create by fearing that I'm not going to meet a deadline. And I deal with all of these things at once, and then also am wondering, when am I going to get off the train? When is it going to stop so that I can just take a break? When can I go ahead and have that drink? When can I hang out on the beach and have a good day and not worry about whether I'm going to meet a deadline? These things all start catching up to you, and it is very specific to the founder side, again, because this is a taboo subject. We have to keep that stone face no matter what. And, whenever there's an issue that pops up because we weren't able to meet a deadline, because that opportunity was lost or this opportunity was lost, it happens all the time. It's part of being a founder. You've got to learn from your mistakes, pick up the pieces, and go. And you're not supposed to. And this is the idea anyways, that you're not supposed to let it affect you emotionally. You're not supposed to let it hurt you. You're supposed to pick up the pieces, get back on the horse, and go. And that's not so easy sometimes because we have set expectations for ourselves and we miss the mark, which is not a bad thing. We need to remember that. And I have to remind myself of that. And I always, whenever I'm dealing with this depression, I always find a way to pull myself out. And the best way is that life goes on and I have amazing people around me who support me. And you've got to remember that. There's no way that any founder of any company can make it all on their own. You can try as hard as you want, but you just can't. And that's what personally pulls me out, even though it may take me a few weeks and I may reach that boiling point and I really am concerned about things beyond your average everyday concerns, which it may sound interesting. I'm pretty sure a lot of you out there are dealing with a lot of your own stresses and things of well, I guess any type of anxiety. There's so many people out there dealing with it, but founder's depression is just so unique because it is so taboo. We are not supposed to open up. I've heard stories from other founders that went to a shrink or a therapist, and their therapist told them that they can't say anything because they're leading a Fortune 500 company after a couple years of doing it. And, they started up this amazing company, and they are dealing with this depression where they could not move. They could not show up to the office. They were crying, and they were thinking about stepping out in front of the train on the way to work. So they went into their therapist, and the therapist told them very specifically, you cannot let anybody know what is going on. Is that right? No. And that's why this is so unique. It's because we have not yet, as a group of people in a community that is not, it's been treated like this fairy tale land where we all just come up with an idea in the garage and we make it happen, or we completely fail. And when I say that, you're either sitting here riding in a Lamborghini in a few weeks, or at least a Ferrari or a Tesla or whatever, or you completely failed. You have to go back with your tail between your legs to whatever 9-to-5 job you had before, and that's how we see the startup culture in the United States for the most part. And it's unfortunate because there is no middle ground. There is no person that, oh yeah, I found a middle, or I found a failure with something and learned from it and picked my pieces up and found a mediocre company, and I'm still pushing forward. I'm hoping for the utmost success, but I learned from my mistakes. And a lot of us don't see the startup world that way. And if you're sitting here talking about or thinking when you're hearing this about how the average entrepreneur that has either completely succeeded or failed, and you really set the mark for them in your mind, whether it was verbally or just in your mind a little bit, and never said anything, you're understanding. You're starting to grasp onto what I'm talking about here. There really doesn't seem to be that middle ground, and entrepreneurs have to deal with that psychologically a lot more than somebody who's just out there working a 9-to-5 job with a regular paycheck. Because here's another thing you should all really acknowledge is, as an entrepreneur, you're going to be dealing with a lot of stresses when it comes to the finances, because you don't know if tomorrow you're going to get a paycheck. Even when you have, let's just use Bill Gates, for example. Even when you have hundreds of millions of dollars coming in at any point in time, that does not ensure a paycheck the next few moments. It really doesn't. As an entrepreneur, anything in the market can change at any point in time. Now, we do everything that we can to hedge against that. We run analytics. We go ahead and create plans based on risk versus or benefit versus risk, and we try to figure out all the variables. And we work so hard at that. But we also recognize after a while that there's so many things in life that you cannot stop. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw one thing out there without getting too deep into things. The political environment basically changed overnight. And a lot of businesses are looking at going under just because the political environment changed. For no other reason other than the political environment changed, a lot of businesses are looking at going under. It's not because of the people, because, if people held themselves accountable a little more, it could stay afloat. But it's not even about that. It's just a political environment. Totally changed the picture. Same thing when stock markets crashed, and hey, my family's in real estate. They felt it when the real estate bubble crashed, but they had nothing to do with anything else that was going on at the time in 2008, 2009. They had no effect on it. But they were affected. My family was extremely affected by it, and the real estate market became a very difficult one. At any point in time, as a founder and CEO of a company, there's a lot of things that you need to acknowledge with yourself first, and then the people around you. Hopefully they can do the same for you. But they're not going to unless you open up with everybody and let them know how difficult everything is. It is not easy to open up, but it is very important that you open up and chat with people. Let them know that you're hurting for whatever reason. And if people don't want to understand, then that's fine. They're busy. Go get a therapist. Go speak with one. It's okay to go speak with a therapist. And it's okay for people to not be on the same page as you. They're not doing the same thing as you. So it's important as a founder or an entrepreneur of any sort to go ahead and find that help that you need and understand that the people around you may not understand because they are not in your shoes. It's very, very difficult. And I also understand it's very difficult to not allow people to celebrate in your successes with you. That's another thing that I think really will help you find the strength and the courage to move on and move forward. Is every time you do something, make sure to give somebody a shout out for helping you along the way. That is what's going to get you the attention from the people around you that you need when you are hurting and when you feel devoid of that support system. Those are the same people that will support you, are the same ones that you support. So don't forget that. That's really important. Another thing is, do not make lofty promises. And I'm not talking about the, hey, you know what? I'm going to do big things because I have a goal set in my mind. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm not talking about the, hey, I'm going to do this and that if we can do this and do this. Right now, things are looking amazing. We've got great things in front of us. We could really take this somewhere. No, that you should be doing that. You really should be doing that. But don't be going out telling people, hey, I have a $5 million investment. I'm not doing that right now with iFluxy, and I'm being very careful. While I do feel like I can get some substantial investors, I have not yet secured a substantial investor. I have secured investors, which those people are showing the most respect and support, and I can appreciate that. And I will open up to anybody about this. Now, do I see a strong valuation in the future? Yes, I've sat and spoke with my CRO on iFluxy about this, and he's been honest with me, which is great, about the actual valuation now. Now, he was kind of confused because where I was putting the valuation when it comes to the investors when they come in, it was a lot higher than what my valuation currently is with iFluxy. But I made a point to explain to him, no. This is once we get the revenue stream coming in according to the plan that I have within the next 6 months to a year. And then at that point, then this is where we're going to be. It's all part of the business plan. It's all part of giving people the vision the right way. It's very important that we go ahead and do that. We can't step off. And hold on just a second here. I'm looking at the clock. I am seeing a time that I gave you earlier. If anybody was listening, and good, I've not missed any phone calls. But I am going to go ahead and take phone calls from anybody. If you'd like to go ahead and give me a ring and jump in on the conversation. As I said, it is the dial-in for... excuse me. The dial-in for iFluxy. The live studio dial-in right now is 1-800-851-2186. Option 2. Feel free to call in. I'd love to have any guest jump on in, tell me how they have dealt with founders depression or any experiences you may have. We're a team. I know it's very taboo. You can remain anonymous if you'd like, or you can go ahead and open up, share your name, however you feel like going with this. If you do call in, I will ask your name, but you don't have to give me your real name if you want to stay anonymous. That's quite all right. But yes, again, phone number 1-800-851-2186. Option 2. If we don't have any phone callers today, that is quite all right. Love y'all anyways. I'm still here, gonna ramble on for a while and open up about this a little bit more when it comes to the founder's depression. One of the things that really strikes a chord with me when we're talking about founder's depression, a lot of it is just caused by the constant action. Any founder that's worth their weight in gold or anything else is going to tell you it's all about action, not about words. So we can sit here and not be telling anybody anything. We could sit here and not be going ahead and, we cannot make any type of promise whatsoever and just act, and get stuff done. Right now, I'm kind of in that boat where I'm doing that, and it's still catching up to me. It's still catching up to me, and I feel the anxiety. I feel the depression coming in every now and then. And the reason is because I'm not sleeping well enough. I'm not eating well enough. I'm not taking care of my spiritual needs. I'm not stopping and smelling the roses. I'm not taking my time to do the things that I need to do if it's outside of my business. Because my business is so important to me. My vision is so important to me. I've been taught that sacrifice is absolutely necessary, which is true. It is absolutely true. But I need to know where I'm at and breathe and go take a walk real quick for 5 minutes. That 5 minutes is not going to make a difference. That 10 minutes or that 15 minutes, even that half hour, it's not going to make a difference because I can stay awake for that extra half hour. Or if I stop and breathe and work a little less, I'll be more efficient when I work tomorrow. So I need to remember these things. I need to remember these things that once I get to that burnout point, which isn't necessarily because I'm working too hard. I love doing what I do, but I need to remember, I need to stop and think and remember that every time I get to this point and I start feeling that anxiety and that depression, I've got to go ahead and give myself a break, a breather, and move on. Because that efficiency that I get the next day and the day after that are really going to go ahead and give me a lot higher output than I would have had if I would have just kept going. And because if I would have just kept going, and when I start feeling that anxiety and the thoughts they're way back here, they're never way up here until it's too late, and then I'm kind of at a breaking point, and it's something a lot of people don't even want to talk about. So deal with it yourself as much as you can, but go out and get a therapist. Go out and get somebody to talk to. Mental health is a very important thing when it comes to finding success, when it comes to really pushing forward and pushing through all the difficulties that any entrepreneur might have. I've learned this, and I hope that you can kind of learn from my experiences, and it may sound like I'm rambling, but anybody that's been through my shoes knows exactly what this is like. Anybody that has started up a business knows what it's like to go, and have to keep that game face on. And you were just let down by one of your best friends in business, whether they were best friend before business or not. They became a colleague that you trusted in your business, and they let you down severely with a business decision that they made, or they let you down by making something that you would consider to be immoral, and there was a communication breakdown, and it may be your fault too, and you're dealing with it, but you got to keep your game face on. Instead of going home and crying on a shoulder, you're keeping your game face on. And you're letting things fester up and boil up. They're here in your body. And you know, one of the things that I'm really learning right now, my girlfriend's actually going to school to be a yoga instructor, and it's stuff that I've actually researched in the past as well, but the good reminder of just how things build up in your core and in the back of your mind. These anxieties, these stresses build up if you don't allow yourself to release. And that's a very common issue that we deal with in the entrepreneurial world. Now, I understand that we're staying up late and we're working hard and we're doing things that most people wouldn't do as far as making sacrifices. We're pushing on in ways that most people are not willing to. That's great. We should be doing that. But once we start reaching that point, we need to recognize that anxiety and that depression creeping up on us. We need to keep it under control, and not by keeping our game face on, but by doing the exact opposite, by allowing ourselves to break down, by allowing ourselves to go ahead and cry and weep and to go ahead and be on our hands and knees, because we have a lot of shit going on. It is very difficult for a lot of people to understand, but in the reality, it isn't that difficult because everybody has shit going on. And we need to remember that. Every single person has shit going on. And just because somebody doesn't want to listen to you doesn't mean they don't care. It just means they have a lot of shit going on too. So it's important that we do find our mental health professionals that we can go speak to. I think it's very important, every single one of us founders, whether you have an issue or not, you go get a therapist. These are the people that will help you find success more than any person or association you have out there. I think they're much more valuable than any relationship you have with that Fortune 500 CEO or that A-list celebrity. That relationship to me is going to be much more valuable than anything else, because that A-list celebrity is going to be sitting there thinking in their head when I go to them with a problem, why am I in business with this person? They can't keep their shit together. And the reason they say that, and the reason I think that, they're not making it worse, because you got to understand, they have shit they have to deal with, and they have their own therapists. They have their own people that they go to, their own mental health professionals. They have their own network of people. Not all of them have a therapist. Majority, I'm pretty sure, if you're succeeding and making substantial amounts of income, you're going to be dealing with a mental health professional. Otherwise, you're going to break. And, we've seen that a few times. We've had our Britney Spears breakdowns. We've had, what's her face, refused some mental health help a little while back. Amanda Bynes. Yeah. And, some of it we can't help. And here's another thing in the founders world. There are a lot of disorders, personality disorders, that are associated with success. That doesn't make you a worse person, but you should probably acknowledge that, hey, if you have bipolar, you should be speaking with somebody. A lot of the most creative, brilliant minds out there have bipolar disorder. That is how they are able to stay awake and push, because they're having a manic episode where they're excited about what they're working on, and their minds are brilliant. That chemical imbalance that's going on is creating different portions of their brain to work much faster, much better than the average person. But then comes the crash. Then comes the other side. And you need to understand when that is happening. A little self-responsibility is important. Now, it's not all just self-responsibility and self-accountability. It is also on the people around them that have taken vows to support them, people who have made the promise to support them. If you're one of those people, please find a way to help them through these times without pointing it out as a problem to them. I know it's difficult. You should be seeking a mental health professional for yourself as well to help walk you through the process. They know how to do this. I'm not saying you have an issue, but I am saying it can be beneficial in helping walk you through the process of dealing with somebody who is bipolar. Or another thing, another disorder that's a really big one would be a borderline personality. When it comes to successful people, there's a lot of narcissistic personalities. There's a lot of borderline people out there. There's a lot of people that may even appear that way because they have the tendencies as an entrepreneur and a professional, because they have to have their game face on. That doesn't mean that they do on the inside, but on the outside, they're coming across as a borderline personality or a narcissistic personality person. They can easily come across that way because they have to keep their game face on, even though they made a mistake, or even though their colleagues made a mistake. They have to act like everything is okay. That's part of being an entrepreneur. So they may not even have that disorder, but you're dealing with the same type of backlash, the same type of actions that somebody would have that had that disorder. So there's a lot there that can be said, and this can go on. Really, boys and girls, we can go on for days on this subject, because there are so many elements to chasing success that have to deal with mental health, whether it be on the negative side or the positive side. So that founder's depression can be really intense. Now, on the flip side, if we're doing absolutely everything right with ourselves spiritually, when we're doing everything right with ourselves physically, when we're doing everything right with ourselves emotionally, we are really walking a path of I guess humility is one of the best ways to put it, but also finding a way to compassionately convey our visions, and to passionately follow them and chase them. And it's a beautiful and amazing thing. Now, there's no way any person in this world can go ahead and follow that path 100% without straying a little bit. You know, I for example, I've looked at Mother Teresa in the past when she was alive. She did some things that I would almost consider egotistical. But she walked a fine line and turned around and was like, okay, yeah, I have to acknowledge my gifts. I've done these amazing things. But I did it thanks to God. And I think it's important that we take from Mother Teresa something very important and realize that humility is not always what everybody else thinks it is. Humility sometimes is going ahead and acknowledging your gifts. Because as an entrepreneur, there's some 98% of you, if I look at you and you're an entrepreneur, you have a gift that the rest of the world needs. That's why you're doing what you do. And you're acknowledging it. But truly acknowledge it and acknowledge that that gift is not yours. Whether it be through a higher power, or whether it be your teachers when you were younger, or whether it be that negative situation that really set your brain off in a different part of your brain, realize that gift is not yours, and that gift may come along with a curse. And I was just touching on that one. That chemical imbalance that created that gift may also be your curse, but you need to acknowledge it as a gift first and treat it very carefully. Do not take that gift for granted. We are a team when it comes to founders, when it comes to entrepreneurs. We are all a team, and I guarantee you, if you open up about the difficulties that you're having, somebody somewhere will sit there and say, I know exactly what you're talking about. I went through that last week. And if they don't, you need to change your circle, because there are people that deal with this all the time, and they will open up. Me personally, I went through this recently, where I started dealing with that depression. I had to cry, and I was starting to be an asshole to the people around me. Like I said, I was being brash, and I was being an asshole to the people around me. And I love these people dearly, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. I thought it was all about me. I thought I was causing all these issues, and it wasn't me, but it wasn't. I couldn't figure it out. Well, the reality of the situation is all I had to do was calm down. Fortunately, I have people around me that love me enough to know that shit is going down in my life because I'm working so hard. And it hurts sometimes when things don't come to fruition right away. It feels like I am a failure on a lot of levels, so I become defensive. And people have known me throughout my past that I do this. And it really makes me get to a point where I just really feel like I can't push on. But he made a point to me, listen, I understand. You're working your ass off, and it can really feel like you're not getting these things done, but you are. Just take a breath. Just breathe. And I know it's not easy. Just breathe. And I don't advise most people to tell other people to just breathe. Find a way to do it. Again, go to a mental health professional for the purpose of being able to walk through the process. Don't allow yourself to be abused. That's not what I'm saying. At the same time, if you've chosen a relationship where you're with somebody who's a really good person, but just is dealing with this founder's depression, understand that I'd say 98% of the time, if they're not laying a hand on you or being, as long as they're not sexually assaulting you or physically assaulting you or totally intentionally, there's a whole line of abuse. Definitely don't allow them to just do outright stuff. The subtle things, everybody gets abusive every now and then. So just understand that there's a root cause that may be there. If you took that vow to support the person, support them, stay behind them, because you may not understand completely what's going on. But like I said, do it with the help of a mental health professional. If you don't have the strength, you're better off stepping away than sitting there allowing yourself to go through a situation where you're feeling hurt, they're feeling hurt. Just step away if you can't do it. Some of us step in thinking that we can. Don't allow it to be abuse. That's not what I'm saying. That's something we all need to be careful with. However, stand behind the people that are working their tails off, with you in mind 90% of the time. As founders, we deserve it. We stick together hand in hand all the time. You know, we're going out doing networking events. We're flying across the country to make sure our business is going. We're working so hard. And if you're in a relationship and you're a founder, actually, let's step back here. If you're in a relationship with a founder or an entrepreneur, understand that person is most likely flying across the country and working their tail off and going through all of these things to make sure that your life is improved and that your children or your family or your friends are taken care of just as much as them. They're not doing it out of selfishness most of the time. It's about making sure that everybody around them who's been good to them gets what they deserve in a positive way. I know this as personally. A lot of what I do is so that all the people around me that have stood beside me and behind me and in front of me, people there that have let me put my head on their shoulder and cry a little bit, those people deserve the entire world. And that's going to get paid. I feel so indebted to so many great and amazing people. I work my ass off for those people. And when somebody tries to tear me down for anything that I'm doing with this stuff, it really affects me, and it can set me in a tizzy. You know, sometimes it's not even somebody. Sometimes it's a something. I on New Year's Eve got into a car accident, and it was a pedestrian it was a vehicle on pedestrian accident. And it really put me into a weird place. No laws were broken. Nobody did anything wrong. It was truly an accident. Something just happened on New Year's Eve. But it triggered a stress level. It wasn't something I was able to handle while everything else was going on. And it brought me to a weird place that lasted months. The anxiety still hasn't subsided. I'm still dealing with it. But it brought me there. So it's not always somebody or something that is a direct attack on what's going on, but that stress cannot be maintained in a way that the average person can because the entrepreneur or the founder is going on a level that most people aren't. A lot of athletes do this. A lot of your, here's just the best way to put it when it comes to business. Your entrepreneurs and your founders are going to be your star athletes. They're going. What they put their bodies through and their minds through is almost the same thing as any Olympian athlete. If it's a business person that you know is going to be successful, that's because they are putting their bodies, their minds, their spiritual selves through a regimen that is more difficult than any person you know. Stand behind those people. Like I said, find a mental health professional for yourself to be able to help walk you through dealing with their high stress situations. It's necessary. These people are going to have times where they need to feel like they can open up to you, but there's no way deep down that they feel that they can. And it's going to probably be best if you go ahead and find somebody to speak with that can help you open up to the point of getting them to come in and open up to you. It's not your responsibility, but at the same time, it can help them out so much. That same empathy that you're looking for when they're messing up, when they're in their high stress situation, is something that they can't give you at that point in time. And if you can't give that to them, it's going to be difficult for them to do it for you. So please remember that if you're not a founder. And if you're a founder, remember, it goes the other way too. It definitely does. It's a two-way street. Find yourself a mental health professional that can help walk you through the process. It's very difficult. You should not be afraid to open up. Even though a lot of people will sit here and say, don't open up. Don't open up. It's going to put you in a place where people aren't going to take you as seriously. Don't listen to those people. You should open up. You should be telling people, listen, hey guys, I am dealing with a lot of shit. I really hurt right now, and it doesn't make me any less of a person. I hope you can understand that. But right now I'm dealing with stuff, and I'm hurting. And I would really appreciate if people around me could give me a little bit of leniency with everything, show a little extra compassion for me. It is important to do that. And it is important to do that regularly when you're going through those times. People will forget because you seem like you're okay again a few days later when you really aren't, but you're really pushing on. The onus is on you if you're the one dealing with the issue. but you need to open up and you need to talk to people about it. It doesn't really need to be anything more than that. It really doesn't. It's not a huge deal. Everybody has some, I'm convinced, not everybody, but majority of people have some form of mental illness, whether it be situational or biological. Everybody's dealing with it. And when we talk about founders, I'm convinced absolutely every single one of us has some sort of depression that we deal with when we're going through the startup process at the very least. And then we deal with anxieties that the majority of people don't. So hang in there and realize that we're all dealing with this. And if you don't have somebody to talk to and you've seen this, come talk to me anytime. If you're dealing with shit, I don't like negativity, but you know what? I'd much rather you be okay. I'd much rather I be okay. And maybe we can find a little mastermind circle out of it and find ways to help each other through the shit. I'd much rather have something like that to where we have the power of acknowledging that we're going through some troubles, and the only way we can do it is by putting our brains together. And as the entrepreneurs that we are, we go ahead and do stuff like this all the time. We might as well do it with our psyche, with our emotional selves. We might as well push forward and make something powerful and beautiful out of it. I'm here to help any one of you out. Feel free to call me on the hotline I gave you. I have multiple options. If you need to contact me personally, feel free to dial option 1 to contact me personally. That is my office number. It is that 800 number, option 1. If you're ever trying to dial in to iFluxy, we are here to chat. We don't on every show allow call-ins, but I can tell you if you call in or dial in right now anytime in the next 10 minutes, I will go ahead and answer your call. It is, again, the 1-800 number. It's 1-800-851-2186, option 2. It's the iFluxy dial-in. We have some ring back there. You can have some fun hanging on for a second while our operators go ahead and connect you and deal with that. But we do have awesome shows in our lineup coming up. I'm going to go ahead and transition out of this conversation. It's been a great talk. I love you all for listening, coming in, paying attention to my shows. I know I wasn't on last week. I know there's been a couple other weeks, but we are doing what we can to bring you better shows every week. I have a production coming in here in the near future that is for a top tier company. I will be doing live stream production for them. Things are going to be changing rapidly because of that. I am working very, very hard with a few other companies as well on app development. One company in particular, we're working on getting their app tied into the iFluxy business circles here a little bit. But when it comes to shows, right now we are putting a lot of focus on MMA Power Hour and Lionfist Live. The purpose of Lionfist Live is to bring you business updates, business professionals, and iFluxy updates. Because iFluxy is under extreme development, we will be bringing you more and more things every week, if possible, at least. And we will bring you more and more guests. We do have an awesome guest coming on here sometime in the next few weeks who is a very respected business individual who now has a business tied in with celebrities who will be funding and investing in entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs, in turn, represent the representatives. And you know, we're dealing with a lot of high quality guests coming over the next few weeks. Just hang in there with us. Our next show this Wednesday, we have some major guests touted to be on. We'll see if they're going to be on. The bigger names we try to get, the more difficult it is to get them to solidify something, but it usually happens last minute. Right now we are looking at Ben Kellaby Sanders, who has committed. We'll see if he follows through or is able to. He may not be able to for whatever reason. Life is life. But we are here live and checking out because it is 2:55. I normally do commercials. We will be adding advertisers here very shortly because our advertisers are starting to come on board. We are getting the viewership and the listeners, and I appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. I love you all 100% with all of my heart. Your support is amazing. Everybody that's paying attention, you're absolutely, positively the core of my existence. I appreciate everything you do for me, and I hope you can understand that even in times when I am not fully capable of expressing those emotions, but it means the world. I'm not the best at saying thank you, but thank you very much. Very much gratitude for you. And anyways, I'm going to check out for the day. You guys are amazing and beautiful. That's the last time I'm going to say that, but I'm out of here for now, and for the next 6 days I will not be on live. Well, I might get a surprise out of me, but deuces.
Amazing! Fuck you!
Welcome to Lionfist. Lionfist. Lionfist Live. It's like a lion roars. Duh.
I don't get it.
Bringing you a bunch of random stuff today.
I really don't care. No, really. I don't care.
Keeping things relevant every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific time here on Lionfist Live. This is Lionfist, only on iFluxy.
Seriously?
Wow! Coming out of nowhere with a spinning heel kick. Knockout.
This is Colin Crandall from iFluxy Studios bringing you the MMA Power Hour.
Against Wonderboy. I don't know why.
We'll be talking about everything MMA, recapping most recent fights, breaking down what happened, and especially going over the most exciting upcoming fights, looking at the matchups, breaking down, analysis, even predictions, betting advice, all kinds of great things that we will be presenting to you here from super fans, knowledgeable people like myself who train and love MMA. So go to iFluxy.com and tune in for your weekly MMA action on the MMA Power Hour every Wednesday at 8.
It would be good, but Tyron Woodley is a badass fighter. Anyone that doesn't think so, go ahead and tell him to his face, because I ain't going to be doing that for sure, and neither are you.